Hello friends, welcome back to my video review series for my Q4 2022 Tesla earnings, part 420. I'm kidding, it's part 20. It may feel like part 420 to some of you, but this is only the 20th part. Only the 20th part of my forecast review series where I take you through my Tesla earnings forecast and explain how it works and what I'm forecasting. I am joined today by my ebullient host, Loki, in his bed. I kid with him. He's resting. There's not a lot for him to do, so he's just taking the opportunity to nap, while I take the opportunity to continue the tour of my earnings model. You may not recognize this as being the next section, but it is the next section following Adjusted EBITDA and automotive gross margin excluding regulatory credits, which I just talked about in part 19. So let's move on to what's next. Let's talk about the maximum weekly production capacity for Tesla. This number rises over time, right? So it started the year at 38,000 vehicles per week, 40,000, 46,000, 49,000. Now, Tesla is not making this many vehicles, and it hasn't all year, because even though there are 13 possible weeks every quarter, not every factory was able to produce vehicles in all 13 weeks of all of these quarters, right? So think of this number as being the theoretical design capacity for each factory as of each of these quarters. That number is going to continue to grow in the next year as Tesla adds more production capacity when they ramp up the lines in Austin, Berlin, and Shanghai, all of which are growing. And maybe Fremont a little bit. Fremont's pretty well maxed out at this point. So what do we have here? Production efficiency. This is just taking the forecast, or in this case the actuals from Q1, Q2, and Q3, and dividing them into these numbers. What's with the 50% in Q2? It's because Shanghai did not get 13 full weeks worth of design capacity out of their factory in that quarter. They were limited by the Shanghai lockdowns, closing that factory for 4 weeks, and then reducing its capacity to only one shift per day, 6 days per week, for an additional 4 weeks of that quarter. So low yield on theoretical production capacity for Tesla in that quarter. It resulted in vehicle production of only 258,580 that quarter. Look how much I'm forecasting for Q4, 447,258, which is 70% production efficiency. I didn't get to it by making assumptions in these cells. These are just adding up the totals from my detailed sections. You may notice that this is row 1,258 on this tab. That's because I've got hundreds and hundreds of rows at the top of this page where I go through for each model at each site, figuring out for each quarter how much the production capacity is, how many weeks of production they'll have, and at what production efficiency, and I build up to it by model and by site, and then these are just the totals that you're seeing reflected at the bottom. So overall 70% production efficiency would be pretty great, and then next year I've got that number rising to maybe 79%. You're not going to get this number to 100% ever, because that's not how it works. Also for Fremont, I still show that there's capacity to produce a lot more Model 3s than Tesla does produce, because they're using some of that capacity to produce Model Y. But they could flip back the other way if they wanted to. So I'm modeling that as being a very low production efficiency on Model 3 at Fremont, when I could have done it the other way and we would have higher numbers here. But I like the way I did it. So what do we have here with beginning finished goods inventory? A much larger number to start the quarter in Q4 than we had in any of the previous quarters. What's going on there? This was ending the wave. So Tesla put a big note in their earnings release for Q3 explaining that they were ending the wave, which is why they had a high ending finished goods inventory in Q3 that becomes the beginning inventory for Q4. That's always how this works. The ending inventory from one quarter becomes the beginning inventory for the next quarter. And then whether or not there's an increase from there depends on whether you deliver more or you produce more. If you produce more than you deliver, your ending finished goods inventory will rise. If you deliver more than you produce, which is not sustainable, you can't keep that up forever, the ending finished goods inventory will go down. All right, so what am I forecasting into the future? I'm forecasting a lot higher ending finished goods inventories, and I've made a few videos talking about ending the wave, so I won't go into more detail on that. I'll just let you know those videos exist if you want to hear me talk about what ending the wave means and how the mechanics of that work. So I've got the ending finished goods inventory rising to 68,094, way higher than it's ever been before. So part of that is smoothing out shipping, so more vehicles on ships at the end of the quarter than Tesla has ever had before, moving to overseas buyers from the factory where those vehicles were produced. Shanghai is the export hub, so that's what we're talking about there. And in the US, there's going to be some ending inventory contributed by the Inflation Reduction Act, having the unwanted consequence of causing a lot of Americans to defer taking delivery of their new Tesla until January if they qualify for the new or the recently restored $7,500 EV tax credit. So that's good news for demand in the US. People will get a $7,500 tax credit if they buy an EV, and they won't if they buy a gasoline car. So that's good news for US demand. And the IRA is additionally good news for Tesla because there's lots of other incentives for building batteries and for producing vehicles that have batteries. And those incentives will increase in the future. So a lot of good benefits for Tesla's P&L coming from that. And you may have noticed that my deliveries forecast for Q4 is 420,069. Yes, I did that on purpose. I had to change this number a little bit. I only had to tweak one of my numbers a little bit to get it to come out to this number. I don't have the fault of believing myself so good that I know I can nail the number of deliveries, particularly when Tesla is ending the wave. And you've got a huge swing expected over the next few quarters from 20,000 vehicles in ending inventory to, over 100,000. I don't know at what rate that transition is going to happen. So this number, the ending finished goods inventory, could be way off. I'll be happy if that number is within 1%, which would be $4,000 to either side of that number. That would be a really good deliveries forecast. I'd be happy with that if I get it. And the last number here is the deliveries subject to lease accounting. That's just me adding up all the leased vehicles by model and by site across the globe. And that's this video. So with that, I will say if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell to get alerts when I post fresh content. Thank you to anyone who supports me with your likes or with your comments. I appreciate those. And a special thank you to anyone who supports me through Patreon or by joining my YouTube channel, especially Kathy Kitchler and Halter Ferguson Financial, my executive producers. And I'll see you in the next one.